Jonesy and Amanda.
Jam Nation.
Down to the Jonesy and Amanda Arms for the pub test today. Character references for someone who's accused of a terrible crime. This has come to light after Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis apologised for the pain their letters on behalf of Danny Masterson caused. He was from that 70s show. He played Hyde in that show.
Yes, he was their colleague on that show and friend. He has been sentenced to 30 years in prison, 30 years to life in prison for raping two women in 2003. They wrote letters, character references on his behalf to the judge, and Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have now apologised for the pain that they may have caused people who feel that they don't believe victims of sexual assault, etc. They said, "Oh, look, we didn't expect." I'm saying I don't think they expected these letters to be made public. They did say they were only intended for the judge. Mm-hmm. But what does this do to people on the receiving end of terrible sexual assault who have to listen to famous people saying, "Hey, the guy's okay"? We had this also with John Howard, who wrote a very glowing reference for George Pell after serious offences against young boys. Yes, he challenged those and was released from prison. But there's a big stench around it for a former Prime Minister to support him. What does that say to the victims?
But if it's just for the judge when he's sentencing and he's supposed to be impartial, he's trying to get a vibe of what this person's like. I'm not defending it, but the law is an ass, as they say. There's a lot of crazy things that go on in the law, and character references have been a big part of it.
But it's always been the way. The person you know isn't the person who's committed those crimes.
That's true.
But does that, by saying so, it lessens how seriously you take the victims of these crimes. So the tribal drum is beating for character references for people who've committed serious offences. Does it pass the pub test?
For serious crime, no, it doesn't. Once they've done the crime, they get to do the time. There shouldn't be any sort of pandering to them or character reference because they've just destroyed it.
No, it doesn't pass the pub test. If you know someone's committed a heinous crime and you support them, then you're just as bad as they are. So to me, no, it doesn't pass the pub test. And Ashton apologised, but they know they've done the wrong things.
No, it doesn't. As a victim of crime, it doesn't. Because the seriousness of the crime, it doesn't pass the pub test.
Yes, it does pass the pub test. Look, I've actually written a character reference to somebody accused of a jailable offence, and you do it based on your knowledge of the individual, and that's basically it, with full awareness of the charges against the court. In my case, it was justified because he was totally vindicated in court. After the fact, if the conviction's been recorded, I don't think it passes the pub test, but if they're just accused, then I think it does pass the pub test.
Some interesting stuff that I'll remember that when your axe murdering past comes up.
Sure. And when that comes up, you let me know as well, because I've completely forgotten about it.
Thank you for all your calls.